What's going on, y'all? It's me, ya boy, back at it again. This time, out here with some Yu-Gi-Oh related content. Got some stuff that I've been planning to upload. Got some pack openings of Infinite Forbidden. Always hoping to get some of that new Exodia support. I'm a big fan of the classics. But today, I figured I'd do a little something different than what I usually do. I'm doing a deck list, Just thought I'd introduce what I've been playing lately. I've been playing a little bit of Ghost Tricks. So, figured, hey, it's October. Specifically today, it's October 10th. And, we're getting into that spooky season. I'm a big fan of Halloween. So, before we get into the deck list, if you're interested, give this deck a try. Doesn't have to be an exact one-to-one copy, but I've been having fun with it. It's definitely not a competitive deck, but it's something fun maybe to play with your friends, bring to locals. I've been having a blast with it. Without further ado, let's start off with just the main deck's monsters here. So, I've been playing 2 copies of Ghostrick Mary. I run those primarily just to get, an additional Ghostrick monster out. Due to the way that they work, Ghost Tricks kind of have to be set before if you go in your initial turn, so it's a little hard to get a board going initially. But this definitely helps summon those out. We'll get into some more plays and things, some combos and everything later on. But those are definitely, I would keep those at 2. I play 3 copies of Ghostrick Lantern. Once again, really, really solid. It's like a battle fader. Of course, helps you stop your opponent's play, save your life points a little bit, and there's some other moves and combos that go along there. I play 2 Ghostrick Yuki-onna. Yuki-onna really helps out in a very similar way to pretty much all the Ghostrick monsters, in that they really do try to stop your opponent from really messing you up too bad. And Yuki-onna really does a decent way with that. I run 3 copies of Neko. Nekomusume is really decent. Very similar, once again, to everything else. It really does stop a lot of the issues that the deck has. I run 3 copies of Ghostrick Witch, which, once again, very similar to all the other ones. Once again, very, very helpful at stopping your opponent from really wrecking you right off the bat, while also giving you some decent monsters on the field. I run a single copy of Ghostrick Fairy, 2 copies of Ghostrick Skeleton, which is very, very helpful if you just want to really mess with your opponent, and 2 copies of Ghostrick Siren. This is just about all the monsters that I run, though there are some other options that you can put into the deck. I can definitely see removing 1 copy of certain things, bringing Ghostrick Witch down to 2, Nekomusume down to 2, and adding in some of the other Ghostrick monsters as you will. But, for now, this is the deck as I run it. And I think it is quite enjoyable, quite a decent spread, a little bit of stoppage, a little bit of decent monster support out there. Gets the deck really started off well with a decent amount of monsters. So, we have much smaller magic card support, well, spell card support, but gotta play 3 copies of Ghostrick Shot. Very solid, really helps out with some later plays with some of your Xyz monsters. I run 3 copies of Ghostrick Mansion. It is an amazing field spell. Absolutely great. And I complement it with a Ghostrick Parade. 4 field spells in a deck might seem like a lot, but the difference between Ghostrick Mansion and Parade is night and day, depending on where you are in terms of the duel's current status. I personally say getting Ghostrick Parade off first before your Mansions is preferable, in my opinion, just due to being able to draw off of Ghostrick Parade, really letting your opponent kind of attack you, and then using its effect to get some cards directly to your hand, getting some of your other cards, such as Ghostrick Shot or a Ghostrick Monster or the like. It's very, very helpful. I also run 2 copies of Trap Gatherer. Mainly just to boost up the Ghostrick monsters for the ability of Ghostrick Mansion to allow you to attack your opponent directly. And Ghostrick Festival really helps with that as well, but we'll get to that slightly later on. So, getting into the big main part of this deck is, of course, trap cards. So, let's get into those. I start off with one copy of Ghostrick-Go-Round. I then run a single copy of Ghostrick Vanish, 3 copies of Ghostrick Renovation, 3 copies of Ghostrick Retreat, 2 copies of Ghostrick Night, 2 copies of Break, 2 copies of Scare, 1 copy of Quaking Mirror Force, and 2 copies of Metaverse. It's a lot of traps. Just about as many traps as there are monster cards, but once again, using something like Trap Gatherer, you really do need to have a decent supply of traps to really feed that card so that when you equipped it to something, you really get some good boost off of it. So, what we have here is a lot of different options. Quaking Mirror Force should be fairly obvious for why. It's really good to just knock your opponent's monsters face down, really go off of Mansion and Festival to really go for those direct attacks with limited opposition to you. Metaverse here is really, really nice in my opinion to pull off swapping out your field spell. So if you want to go from Parade into Mansion, I think it's really, really nice to have. You could obviously do without these, drop Ghostrick Parade entirely, and really go all in on much better cards. This is a 44 card deck, so it is not the standard small 40 cards. I went with 44 obviously more for theming. The number 4 in Japanese is obviously death, but it's also number 4, so themed deck here. It's much more casual. You could definitely go much more competitive with this. Drop your 2 Metaverses, drop your Festival, take something like Ghostrick Retreat down to 1, something like that. So with that, we can move on to, get these all out of here, the extra deck, which is where Ghostricks really shine. So, in the extra deck, I run 2 copies of Ghostrick Angel of Mischief, of course for that win condition. You're not really going to be going for it, but it is something to have available with Ghostrick Shot and Ghostrick Renovation. I run 2 copies of Sokite Boss, which is, of course, going to feed into things like Angel of Mischief. I run 3 copies of Doulahan, 1 copy of Alucard, and number 48 Shadow Lich. This makes up the vast majority of it, with 3 copies of Ghostrick Festival for its effect. Now, from here, it's worth going into our options for various combos and plays and things that you can do in your matches to make things a little bit easier on yourself before you really start to get messed up too bad. So, starting off, one of my personal favorite little options is card Ghostrick Night, which is really, really good in my opinion for its ability to stop your opponent from really creating a bigger board where it just wipes you out, OTKs you, because Ghostricks are very, very low in attack and defense on their own. It's their ability to be flipped back down every single turn that really makes them potent, and their ability to mess with your opponent's cards and their positioning as well. This one is a really good option because it's an infinite trap. So once it's triggered, you get the effect of when a Ghostrick monster is on the field, your opponent cannot flip summon. When this card is in your possession and is destroyed by your opponent's card effect and is sent to the graveyard, your opponent cannot declare your attacks for the rest of this turn. Effectively, if main phase 1, your opponent destroys Ghostrick Night when it's on the field, they really just don't have a battle phase that turn, which really puts a good stall on them, which allows you to really set up some other options. Ways to play around that and not being able to flip summon are really, really easy to get with this deck, because you really do get some good options. You've got Nekomusume, which is really going to stop your opponent from doing pretty much anything with more potent stuff. When a level 4 high normal monster is normal or special summon, Change that monster to face down defense position, which basically, when Nekomusume is on the field, Ghostrick Night combos really well, stops your opponent from being able to flip that monster back up, and that really, really, really helps. Which is, of course, very powerful because it's an infinite trap, so it goes off at all times, prevents them really from doing anything. Ghostrick Witch is another good option for this. Effectively, once per turn, you just get access to an instant, hey, that monster there, he's going to be a problem, flip him face down. So you've got a lot of options to flip your opponent's monsters from face up to face down. So it's nice to have monster cards, which, because of course every single turn, they can be flipped back down to face down defense. That's a really, really good option. And of course, as I'd mentioned, I don't run more than one copy, but you definitely could. Quaking Mirror Force works really, really well with Ghostrick Night because when an opponent monster declares an attack, change all your opponent's attack position monsters to face down defense position. Monsters changed to face down defense position cannot be, by this effect, cannot change the battle position. Effectively, it's a second Ghostrick Night, except this goes off once, this is permanent. So, the monsters that Quaking hits can't change anyways, and with Ghostrick Night in effect, they will never be able to change when additional monsters are added to the field that are hit with something like Nekomusume or Witch that weren't initially affected by Quaking. Now, of course, this isn't a foolproof way of stopping your opponent's deck. There will be ways that they're going to do things. They could tribute, basically any way of getting them away, linking them off, various things. But these are really powerful options for kind of initially stopping it, so you can go into things to really cause some havoc. Of course, you've got your Ghostrick Mansion, which is really going to help. Ghostrick Mansion making it so you can attack directly if all your opponent's monsters are face down defense position. And of course, it has its secondary effect of if you take damage from something that isn't a Ghostrick monster, you get half the damage. So if you get attacked by, say, a Blue Eyes White Dragon with 3,000 attack, you only take 1,500. It's really, really helpful. And of course, we're running it at 3, so we can really maximize the effect of that. And with monsters being face down and everything, that really all pairs quite well. And of course, these are all the same archetype, so they really, really do help each other out, which is super nice to have. Of course, I said earlier that we were running 2 copies of Trap Gatherer. Now, of course, Trap Gatherer needs traps and grave. And one of the best ways to get them there, on top of just playing trap cards, to get them off quicker, you have Ghostrick Siren. Ghostrick Siren and Trap Gatherer work really, really well because, of course, we have a lot of traps in our deck. We want to use Ghostrick Siren to get its effects off. Those effects being effectively the moment that Ghostrick Siren goes from face down the fence, you flip it for your turn, and at the second that Ghostrick Siren flips, you get the effect of milling 2 cards out of your deck directly to grave. And if either one of them was a Ghostrick card, not just a Ghostrick monster or a Ghostrick spell or a Ghostrick trap, any Ghostrick card, which is why we're running so many of them, it doesn't even have to be both, just one of those 2. You can get any Ghostrick spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, so just search for whatever you want, be that a Ghostrick Shot or, another copy of, like Ghostrick Night or Ghostrick Renovation, whatever you really want to get into your hands to make your next turn really well. Ghostrick Siren really works. Now, of course, this can get ashed, which is unfortunate because of that effect, but one of its better plays is if you already have a copy of Ghostrick Night on the field, you can use its second effect to great impact. Change one effect monster your opponent controls to face down defense position. Yet another card that flips your opponent's monsters to face down defense position to feed Ghostrick Knight's kind of stopping and blocking up the board, really clogging it up for them so that their options are really limited. And that plays, once again, right back into your Ghostrick Mansions and your Ghostrick Parade, where you want your opponent's monster face down so you can attack directly. Obviously, Ghostrick Parade is worse than Ghostrick Mansion, as you do not get access to the the just damage, as Ghostrick Parade stops all damage from you to your opponent. They won't take any kind of damage from you, but you do get to draw a card from your deck into your hand. I should say add a Ghostrick card from your deck to your hand, and not literally draw, when your opponent makes a direct attack, which of course your opponent's going to be doing with your monsters being in face down position pretty much all the time. So obviously Ghostrick Siren plays really well into Trap Gatherer, but there are some other options for combos in this deck. One of my personal favorites is if you're ever in a bad position and you have a Ghostrick Mary in your hand or a Ghostrick Lantern. These are great to have in hand. They are a hand trap of sorts, but they have some really useful effects. Ghostrick Lantern, like I said, acts as a battle fader. Effectively, when your opponent makes a direct attack or they're targeting a Ghostrick monster for an attack, you get a free negate of the attack, and it special summons itself to the field in face down defense position, which is really, really useful. Then, Ghostrick Mary is another great option, because Ghostrick Mary allows for a free special summon from your deck in face down defense position again, so getting another Ghostrick monster on the field quite easily and effectively, just for you taking damage. So with Ghostrick Mary, you have it in your hand. Let's say Ghostrick Lantern was summoned earlier that turn, gets destroyed. Well, now you don't have anything on the field, but let's say that you have your Ghostrick field spell out, so you've got Ghostrick Mansion, and with Ghostrick Mansion, you only take half battle damage, so having an empty board isn't so bad, especially with Ghostrick Mary in hand, because of Ghostrick Mary's effect. The second they make an attack, you take, let's say, 2,000 damage, which is pretty normal for one attack to do. Ghostrick Mary's effect allows you to pitch Ghostrick Mary to the grave to special summon any Ghostrick monster you want in face down defense position. So you've lost your Ghostrick Lantern. Well, that's not so bad, because now you get access to just about anything that you want. That could be your Ghostrick Neko, that could be your Ghostrick Siren, or if you really, really, really want to mess with your opponent, one of my favorite cards in this deck that seriously messes up some people's games is your Ghostrick Skeleton. Ghostrick Skeleton being a particularly obnoxious little bugger, because he is one of the few times where your opponent will get to pitch cards directly from deck to grave just on the effect of Ghostrick Mary going straight to the field. If you summon out Ghostrick Skeleton, he effectively says, when this card is flipped face up, banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down up to the number of Ghostrick monsters you control. You can only use this effect of the Ghostrick Skeleton once per turn. So, not the best pick initially for Ghostrick Mary. Obviously, if he gets flipped face up and he's the only one on the field, your opponent only banishes one card from their deck face down. But he's a great option if you have other monsters face down. So, your turn comes about, you know, let's say you have your monsters in face up defense, you didn't flip them face down for whatever reason, use Ghostrick Mary, you set him. Well, if they attack your face down just to see what it is, which most likely your opponent's not going to do, given that you have Ghostricks and they know that these are effectively flip effect monsters, the off chance that you get your monster attacked and you have, say, your Ghostrick, board kind of built up, something like this, so you got your Ghostrick Festival out, which is in fact a Ghostrick monster. Your opponent attacks, he is going to trigger his effect. Let's say you got 4 monsters on the field, so they're gonna pitch 4 directly into banished, which is pretty good to have. It's a great option. It's really, really helpful. But that said, we have some interesting extra deck combos that work with this deck, because this deck has Ghostrick Festival, which, as I mentioned, is really, really nice. And that's where your Ghostrick Lantern is really going to come into play, because it can summon itself basically straight to the field and negates the attack, it is most likely one of the cards that you're going to have on the field in face down defense position right at the start of your turn, which is where Ghostrick Festival really shines as an amazing extra deck option. One non-link Ghostrick monster. To my knowledge, there are no other link monsters in the Ghostrick archetype. I believe it is just Ghostrick Festival right now, but that's obviously there to make it so that this doesn't cause problems later down the line when they may or may not release more Ghostrick stuff. So with Ghostrick Lantern having been summoned to the field, you can link it off right away at the start of your turn for Ghostrick Festival, which is going to be very, very powerful because Ghostrick Festival's effect reads, you can also use face down Ghostrick monster you control as material to link summon this card, i.e. the monster you just had. You don't need to flip him face up. You can just link him straight away with Ghostrick Festival. No problems whatsoever. When a Ghostrick card is in your field zone, your Ghostrick monsters can attack directly, which is, of course, your Ghostrick Mansions and your Ghostrick Parades. So you've got your Ghostrick Mansion and you've got your Ghostrick Parade. Regardless of which one, you can attack directly. Obviously, you're going to want Ghostrick Mansion for that, not Ghostrick Parade. Ghostrick Parade making it so your opponent takes no battle damage. But Ghostrick Festival, once again, now that you can attack directly because you have them out, is going to be very, very good. Because once again, while Ghostricks are a very low attack option, they attack directly due to this card's effect. Not just if your opponent's cards are face down, just by nature of having Ghostrick Mansion or Parade on field, you get free direct attacks thanks to Festival. Obviously, Festival is a 0 attack monster, but it allows your other monsters to attack directly. And you do have some decent beaters. You have your Angel of Mischief with a 2000 attack stat. You've got Alucard out here with 1800. We've got Sokute Boss at 14, which is, again, these aren't big, they're not huge, but once again, because our deck is going to be running some real heavy hitting traps, your Trap Gatherer really, really makes that work. Because of Trap Gatherer, the longer the duel goes on, the more you can stall the game out without losing. Trap Gatherer is really, really going to gain boost. Once again, pairing off to add its damage increase to something, you can then really play off of Ghostrick Festival to really, really rack up some high damage direct attacks later in the duel, which is going to be great because you're going to be attacking with everything you have as often as you have it. Now, obviously, because Ghostrick Festival is a 0 attack monster, it's kind of a bad thing to have on the field, which is why we are very, very lucky that Ghostrick Festival has a second effect that states, you can tribute this card, special summon one Ghostrick monster from your deck in face down defense position. When your opponent's monster declares an attack, you contribute this card. In other words, the second your opponent goes to attack, tribute it away, and pull out whatever monster you like. And that, is where certain things come in really, really handy. You can once again go after your Ghostrick Witches, you can go after your Ghostrick Sirens, basically anything that you really, really would like to have to make your day just a little bit easier when your opponent is really starting to rack up that big, big board. I personally like using Ghostrick Festival into a Ghostrick Skeleton just because of how powerful Ghostrick Skeleton can be at really messing with your opponent and causing some serious havoc on their deck. So, with that said, I think that I can safely say, those are some really, really basic, obvious combos. But Ghostricks are probably one of my favorite little niche, not necessarily super good decks, but I definitely think that they have their place and they're really, really fun. And I suggest everybody, gives them a try. And obviously, because it's October, super well themed. I know I said it at the beginning, but I'll say it once again. I've got some other videos coming out. We got some deck openings of Infinite Forbidden that I'll be uploading. Oh, I'm sorry, not deck. I say deck opening. Pack openings of Infinite Forbidden coming out soon. And maybe some more deck videos, maybe some duel videos. And then obviously, eventually this month, I'll be going into the Team Fortress 2 Scream Fortress contracts. So, keep an eye peeled, and I'll see you all on the flip side.